Before we begin, we want to gently make you aware that this episode includes conversation around sexual abuse, mental health struggles, and suicidal thoughts. Viewer discretion is advised. Please listen with care and take a break if you need to. If you're in immediate danger, please call 911. And if you're struggling or in crisis, please call or text 988 at any time. Remember, you are loved and you are not alone. We hope this episode is helpful to both you and potentially you as a couple as you listen.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Broken for Better podcast. I am Kurt. This is my wife, Danette, and you guys know we are so excited to spend time with you today. This episode is going to be amazing. You know, we do a lot of stuff and we talk a lot about our story. But this thing that we're talking about today is probably an area that we haven't discussed a lot of. It's not part of our stories. And so we're truly blessed and honored to have a couple on here to navigate us through it.
Yeah, that's right. Today we have Joe and Alice, and they've been married 39 years, which is amazing. Congratulations, 39 years, but their story is raw. Their story is real, and they came into marriage with totally different backgrounds. So today we're going to dig into that a little bit. We're going to talk about some intense seasons that they faced. We're going to navigate some questions and some thoughts on betrayal and deep wounds that they've walked through, but they've walked through it with years of counseling. They've walked through it with help, and they're here today not as a perfect couple, which no one is a perfect couple, right? But they're here as proof of someone that God has rebuilt and restored. And so today, maybe you're someone who feels shattered. And we just want you to know that there is hope. There's absolute hope. And we're going to be talking about that for better, for worse, right? That broken for better and sickness and in health. We're going to be talking about mental health survival. We're going to be talking about some very intense subjects, but we're here to tell you that it's worth the fight. It's worth the fight for your family. So if you're here, we want you to take a deep breath. Maybe get a cup of coffee, maybe grab a tissue.
Grab some tissues.
Grab some tissues if you need to, because we're just honored that you're here to have this conversation with us. Joe and Alice, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so honored just to have you here and share your story.
Yes, welcome. 39 years, guys. We're 10 behind you.
40.
We are.
Soon to be 40. Let's go.
July.
You know, you don't hear those numbers much anymore. And so we do marriage all day, every day. It is amazing to see a couple that has fought and is here and is about to celebrate 40. Kudos to you. Well done. Congratulations. And who knows what the next 40 will be like, right?
That's absolutely true. Absolutely.
So listen, if your almost 40-year marriage had a headline, just a marquee headline, what would that headline be?
Or a title, the title of your book.
Not for the faint of heart.
Oh,
I like that.
I like that.
I like that. I like that so much. Okay, so you guys came into marriage with what you said, Alice, was drastically different backgrounds, right? Alice, you said that your background was very traumatic. Yeah. Joe, you, in her eyes, and maybe you had a different perspective, but in her eyes was kind of a leave it to Beaver, right? So drastically different backgrounds. How did those backgrounds first reveal themselves or show up in your marriage?
Well, before we even start, I just want to applaud what you all are doing and just say how honored we are to be a part of this ministry today. That you guys have been through it, and it would be not for the faint of heart for you all also. And we just respect and admire you so much. So that's one of the things that attracted us to, entering and wanting to be on this podcast with you. So kudos to you guys, because you are really touching lives, healing lives through the power of Christ. And it's beautiful to watch. So we thank you so much for that. But Joe, you want to start how we met, or where do you want to start it?
Well, what was the question?
When you look at those different backgrounds, what was your first inclination that, these differences are going to really reveal themselves in our marriage? Like, how
Oh
did that
boy.
first even
Okay.
come up?
I guess I'll give a little, from the beginning. Okay, we met at a mutual friend's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm.
lived in Long Island, New York. Alice lived in Florida at the time. We met in Westchester. We walked down the aisle together. And then,
Well, I wanted to walk down the aisle with him. I was supposed to walk down the aisle with my best friend's brother, but I saw Joe and he drove up in this
Z.
300ZX
Mm.
Nissan,
Those are the days.
cherry apple red, and he
Two-seater.
opened up the door, and this foot came out, and I went from
Mm.
the foot all the way up.
All
And
the
I
way up,
said,
she
I'm
says.
gonna marry that man. I knew that moment.
Wow.
I
Wait, so
knew that
y'all
moment
walked
I was gonna marry that man.
down the aisle before
Yes.
you walked down the aisle.
Yes.
Yeah, we walked down the
Wow.
aisle before we walked down the aisle. And we shared one kiss.
As our farewell kiss after everything was over and reception was over and everything.
Yeah.
Farewell kiss, but I guess I couldn't get her out of my mind. We started
Wow.
calling back and forth. There was no cell phones or anything. I was 24, 25 in the
I'm
basement
25. I was 23.
of
Yeah.
my parents' house. My mother still lives today, sitting on a washing machine on a corded phone, so I could have some privacy in the basement,
Yeah.
and having long
Well, I remember the
conversations.
corded phones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
this was September of 85.
85. Yeah.
Wow.
And we got married July of 86. So we communicated a little bit. I visited for Christmas was the first time, or Thanksgiving.
I think it was
Oh.
Thanksgiving.
Then visited
And
again
then
for
I
Christmas
came up for Christmas and he proposed
in Manhattan
in
on a
Manhattan.
horse-drawn
Yeah.
carriage. Okay, so it was all storybook in the beginning.
Hey,
He said,
yeah,
don't forget that
He's
part.
like 300 ZXs, horse-drawn carriages, walking down aisles. Boy, it's like a fairy tale, guy.
Oh yeah, it was.
It was. And at the time we were not saved. And so
We drove up together Valentine's Day of 86 in Sin to live together in her 78 something or other
Cougar. It was
she
a
had.
black Cougar.
Yep.
Wow.
And then we lived together and got married in July. But leading up to that, living together, I never lived with somebody.
Mhm.
There was tension starting to build.
Mm.
And right before the wedding, I said, I can't do this. And Alice was in tears. I was confused. And I was like, I like sucked it up and said, it's just a little bit of problems. We can probably get through it. What happens to people that have problems? Do they just get trashed? So I can do this. So we kind of worked it out and got married, and it didn't work out that easy. There were a lot of issues, but we almost pulled the plug right there. Or I almost did.
Yeah.
But then we got married, and then we started living real life, and more issues started coming up because when you're in the honeymoon phase, everything's just sex and fun.
Yeah.
But then when there's real life
Mhm.
and real discrepancies, and what are you doing with your time and what am my time? How do you act for this and how do you react to things and
Mm.
sharing and cooperating? Things started to bubble up.
Yeah.
So
Now at the
Yeah.
time I was undiagnosed. I was unmedicated. And so I was just raw coming out of a very traumatic background as a child. My brother and I, only siblings, and our father was a homosexual pedophile,
Mm.
but he abused both of us sexually, and he also was a horrific narcissist and abused us physically as well, like on the daily.
Yeah.
So it was tumultuous to say the least. My mother was an alcoholic at that time. And so she would just drink to kind of hide herself from everything that was going on. And all along to this day, and she's still with us, believe it or not, she's 97 years old
Wow.
and plans to make it to 100. But to this day, she still says in defiance that she never knew that my father was molesting us. She never knew that my father was doing all these horrible things to us. And that's a term I learned later on in therapy called gaslighting,
Mm.
where she would gaslight everything I said. And so I just learned at a very early age not to speak about it. We just kept the family facade. My father was a concert pianist. He was, since the age of 3, composing music. So he was extremely intelligent. He graduated college at the age of 16, and he was a very handsome man, very loved by the ladies, which is so, contrary to
Which
who
wasn't his preference.
yeah, that wasn't his preference. But they would fawn all over him, and my mother would just drink more. And so basically, he was molesting. He was a church organist, and he was molesting the young boys in the choir. He would do that, and then they would find out at the church that we were at, and they would move us on and fire him. And we're like, why does daddy keep getting fired? Like, what is the problem here? We don't understand. And he also, he taught at what is the name of it? The
Juilliard.
Juilliard School of Music and
Mm.
Manhattan School of Music, and he was molesting all these young boys. He
Wow.
just left a wake of destruction, and my mother just thought it was the music scene. That was all it was the music scene.
Let me ask you something real quick, because I want to make sure we don't we don't lose something here.
Yeah.
When these two worlds, because obviously vastly different,
Yeah.
Right.
come together. And Joe, you mentioned like, man, we were fighting on the surface of this stuff. We got all these issues, and don't everybody just do this? But
Yeah.
Alice comes in with a trauma that is that not. I mean, many don't even know the weight or have to carry that kind of trauma.
And I want to say I'm so sorry that
Yeah,
you've had to walk
that's
through.
horrific, and
Just I can't.
it's a
can't
child.
imagine.
How did you when did you start to realize these are not like, wow, we're not fighting over the trash. Like, we have deeper seated things that it's now working itself out. Like,
Yeah.
when did that begin to expose itself as a, uh-oh, hold on a second. We both came in with some luggage I didn't know we were carrying.
That took probably a few years because the door was open little by little by little about Alice's past. I didn't know the nitty-gritty, the details, the depth, all the history. It unfolded more and more. And then after not the first year, maybe the first, second year, we saw counseling, started getting labels on things. Her very first counselor, who I just happened to look up today, Joyce, is still alive.
Oh,
She's
praise God.
93, a famous
Wow.
therapist that we just happen to be fortunately hooked up with, who was a great contributor to the National Alliance on Mental Health, NAMI.
Wow.
A
Mhm.
woman named Joyce Berland, who's I think 93 now. She was Alice's was her patient, and
Right.
she called Alice the bomb child from all the things she'd heard about.
Right.
So that's when the light bulb was going on me. Like, this is bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And things we never even heard of, terminology we'd never even heard of. Usually people think, oh, they're just a sicko. They got a problem. Just the derogatory words like psycho, whatever. You don't think, oh, there's the clinical things and there's reasons, and this makes this happen, and this makes this happen.
Right.
So as we started to learn about that, didn't help dealing with it. Certainly not for me, because with me, I'm a logical, kind of level-headed guy. You do this, this happens. If you do this, it warrants this reaction. It doesn't warrant this reaction. It warrants- So there was a lot of learning and fighting and warring back and forth until years of figuring this stuff out. It wasn't immediately. So 5 years later, we probably would have been divorced if Nikki hadn't been born,
Right.
because she came around in 5 years into the marriage.
And we never wanted a child. We never wanted to have children.
Wow.
I was extremely upset that I was pregnant. When that stick came back positive, I was like, oh no. So, and then they did an amniocentesis test, and it turned out that they told me Nicole was going to be born severely handicapped, dysfunctional. She probably wouldn't have limbs. She probably wouldn't survive. If she was going to be in a vegetable status. Now, unbeknownst to us, they did the test too early. So they gave us the weekend to decide if we wanted to terminate the pregnancy or not. And again, we weren't saved at the time, but this voice came to me audibly no, do not terminate this pregnancy.
Wow.
And so back then, they didn't have all the pictures and all the stuff they have today.
Right.
And we carried to term, not knowing how she was going to come out. And she came out perfect.
I mean,
And she came out to glory to God, just absolutely an adorable, wonderful,
yes.
perfect child.
Yeah.
And so, but that's all to God's glory. And,
So
yeah,
let
that
me
was
ask
really a
you,
tough one.
because that's a so we're trying to catch up. Like, I want our people to know, right? Like, so
Sorry.
you're not
No.
saved, you get married,
Yes.
you have this, you realize, wow, we're coming in with a lot, we got to fight through this. We got pregnant.
Yes.
Are you walking with the Lord at that time? Are you still not walking with the Lord, but like some angel just tells you, hey, don't turn? I mean, like, you're not really seeking God's voice, but you heard God's voice,
I
right?
heard God's voice.
Wow.
Yeah, me as a guy, I just said, it's up to you, whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
But once we had her, I wasn't going to get divorced or anything. I'm a family guy. I'm not going to I know what happens to divorced kids of divorced parents,
Mhm.
and I was going to stick with it no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's funny, not funny, but God's been behind this relationship all along, where the
Mhm.
devil's been trying to break us up because he
Wow.
tried to kill Nikki. He tried to kill Nikki's husband in the womb. Same exact story.
Same
Where
exact
his mother
story
was
with
told the
Ross,
same kind of
Wow.
thing.
her husband.
There's something wrong. You should terminate. And she didn't either. Doesn't know
Right.
why.
Right.
And now you know them.
Well, I was gonna say, now if you look at this power couple, that it's
Yeah.
like God's, like, absolute tools in God's hands. You know exactly why the enemy was doing what he was doing.
Yeah, and for those listening, we happen to know Alice and Joe's daughter and son-in-law very well, and they are amazing, an amazing powerhouse couple. So it's so unbelievable that
Mm.
you're walking through all of this chaos as a couple. You're walking through all of this heartache, um, and only but a glimpse of what you've shared with us, Alice, is like a shining, glaring light of no wonder you had so many struggles when you had so much attacking you. You had so much coming
Mhm.
against you. So, what was that moment, or do you even remember? Because there might have been multiple moments, but was there a turning point when you guys both thought, okay, we can't keep living like this. We know that this chaos that's surrounding us, and I know that this is a very, very long story of 39 years. We're squeezing into, maybe 39
Mhm.
minutes, right? But what was that turning point that you guys as a couple thought, okay, we need to get deeper help? You mentioned having that therapist, but
Mhm.
what made you guys say, okay, we have to do something because we can't keep living the way we are right now?
Mm.
Joe wanted to
I
add
wanted to
something.
rewind something because, well,
Mhm.
Alice had a horrific childhood. It also took a big turn at the age of 12, where she turned her father in, and the
Mm.
police didn't believe her. And then her parents got divorced, and her mother gave up custody and put her into foster care, where she went. So there's issues of abandonment, not trusting, all kinds of stuff. That was
Of
all in
course.
relationship. So she's been through a lot.
So I was in foster care till I was 18, and then I was released into my own recognizance. And abandonment was the biggest issue that Joe and I had.
Yeah.
And um,
But back to
yeah.
what you were just asking, it just took a lot of work, a lot of therapy. I let Alice do a lot of it. Sometimes I would go too. I
Mhm.
thought, I can't do anything about this. And it was a lot of putting a square peg in a round hole over and over and over until the edges worn off, basically, mostly of me to figure out things. Because as she was getting better, I was getting more adept at dealing with things,
Mhm.
thinking it doesn't just one plus one isn't always two.
Mhm. And his family was very opposed to our marriage. They weren't for me in the beginning. I wasn't Italian. I had been married before.
Mhm.
I was married for 3 years to my cocaine dealer husband at the time. Was addicted to a ton of recreational drugs and alcohol,
Mm.
and for obvious reasons. So basically, when I came to know Joe, I had cleaned up my act, so to speak. I decided I don't want any more of this. I even quit nicotine. I quit everything all at once, cold
Yeah,
turkey,
that was right before we met.
right before we met. And so basically, I had gone through a purging of all of that stuff, which thank you, Jesus, because if
Amen.
I had to carry all of that into the marriage, the addictions and everything. But anyway, his parents knew I wasn't Italian, I wasn't a virgin, we were living together.
Wasn't Catholic.
So basically, there was friction constantly with the marriage as far as his parents were concerned.
Mm.
And he was the number one son. He was supposed to be, he's Giuseppe Luigi, and he was supposed to be Father Giuseppe Luigi.
I was named after a priest named Joseph in Italy,
Yes.
who was my grandfather's brother.
Yes.
Wow.
One of three boys, and the oldest, he was supposed to be a priest. And so every expectation they had for if he were going to get married, the woman they wanted was down the drain. And we just really shook things up. I guess that's how you could say it. We really shook things up. But it's also been a long repair job with his parents, and unfortunately his father passed away a couple years ago. But
But they were together the whole time.
yeah, they were
also.
together the whole
So that's where I come
time.
from.
And he comes from a very conservatively speaking,
Conservative,
quiet, don't show your
Don't
emotions,
talk about your emotions,
don't
don't stress and
cry.
everything. Everybody's cool with each other.
Yeah, just
not
keep it
level-
all under the surface, that kind of thing. So when I would blow up and I would rage out and I would go into these panic attacks and bouncing off the wall, he would not know what to do. So what was his first inclination? He would get in the car and he would drive away. And so that's my abandonment issue. I would freak even more because I thought he was never coming back. And so that would escalate me even more so. And unfortunately, Nicole Marie grew up with all this turmoil going on. She truly, truly did.
Yeah.
And by the time she was 8 years old, Joe just kind of decided, you know what? You take care of mom. I got work to do. I got a business to run. He's a computer software developer. And Nikki became my literal caretaker from the age of 8. And so she was grown up fast. Let me tell you what.
In the mental health world, there's a thing called a favorite person, and Nikki became Alice's favorite person. I wasn't. So when things would happen and Alice and Nikki was able to go in there and soothe things in a womanly way where I was just angry, like, why is this happening to me? She would take over, but then she resented us for a while. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, whole nother story. Yeah.
But she got her own help and we're all great now.
Yeah.
But I think your question was, how do we deal with this? Is learning to cope, being patient, not thinking, what is my first reaction? To react, go away, stop
Right.
this. But to try to understand, step back, look at the situation and think, well, why is this? Like, I didn't understand about abandonment. I understand if you're yelling at me and screaming at me, I don't deserve it. I'm not going to stick around for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing to do is just stick around and listen to it, calm down, and get through it.
It's interesting because as
face it into the fear rather than run from the fear, basically.
correct, and I'll tell you, I really like empathetically understand the abandonment thing. I too, not your story, but we often talk about one of my issues was abandonment, and when Danette and I used to get in conflict, that would be her thing. Like, I'm just going to escape.
I need a break.
And she'd want to leave the room or she'd want to leave the house. And the mental side of me, not understanding before I got help for that, man, it freaked me out. I had to tell her, like, you can't leave, because when you leave, it spirals me on so many other ways. And so I really empathize with that and know that has to be a real struggle. When you talk about that, like, we really, and this is why this was so important for us to have this conversation with you, a couple that has battled so hard and fought so hard this mental health thing, because I think in today's culture, mental health has far more emphasis and far more of a spotlight on it than it's ever had.
True.
Especially when we were younger. Mental health was not a thing. It was like, suck it up and move on. Like, you got no problem. But now we're starting to understand a lot more of trauma and a lot more baggage that comes in, and a lot more of the mental health issues are dealt and stemmed from early childhood things. And so talk to me a little bit about just how did you, in an era where mental health didn't have it on there? I know you saw, the therapist and stuff, but together as a couple, what did that look like as you began to expose and really get a hold of these things? Because I wonder how many couples may be listening now that have never faced the fear, that don't want to say, I have like a mental illness. I don't have that. That's not a problem for me. I just have this thing, when it really is more than a thing.
Oh, it's more than a thing. It's more than a thing. When I'll just add in here that I received Christ as my Lord and Savior when I was just when I was pregnant with Nikki, and I was 29, I think, turning 30. And I went to church and brought Nikki with me up until she was about 2, 3 years old. And that's when he finally
Hmm.
got saved. He was unsaved that whole time.
Hmm.
And so there was an element that came into the marriage of God, and it turned everything upside down, because all of a sudden we have this Bible
Mhm.
that is the last word. Okay. It's not even what the therapist says is the last word. It's what does Jesus say is the last word. And so he saw changes happening in me,
Hmm.
and he thought, well, this looks like something I might want to look into. And then he got saved, and then his parents thought we were in a cult.
Let me elaborate on this subject.
Yeah.
Alice was in a house of ours about Nikki was 4 years old, so this must have been 93, 94, in our basement, and she was going to kill herself.
Yeah.
And she was kind of praying to God, still kind of saved at this time.
Mhm.
And somehow God directed her to a storage area by the washing machine behind a pipe. There's a Bible. We are renting this house. We had just gotten there. We didn't put it there. So
Well, first of all, the phone rang, and I never would have picked up the phone. I was ready to unalive myself, and
Hmm.
I would never have picked up the phone, but I picked up the phone. It was my girlfriend, Joanne. I was in Mary Kay Cosmetics for 25 years,
Hmm.
and she was one of my best friends. And she says to me, Jesus knows what you want to do right now. He's totally aware of where you're at and that you want to take your life. And you will not do it in the name of mighty Jesus. You will not do this. And so I'm like screaming at her, you're freaking me out. How do you know this? How do you know this? Because we were acquaintances, but at the time we weren't like best friends. We later on became best friends, but she knew everything that was going through my mind. It was like
Wow.
she just was there. And so Joe's right. I got up from the desk and I went behind the washing machine and cobwebs and everything else. And there was piping there, and I took out this Bible, and I was like, what? So I sat down, I opened it up to the book of Isaiah, and it's like, the Spirit of the Lord is upon you because he has anointed you to preach good news, set the captives free, da 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 da. And that became my life scripture. But the bottom line was, I felt the Lord saying, you have to stay alive because there's more to your story. There's
Yeah.
more to your story. And so I went upstairs and I said to Joe, and he was working hard, and Nikki was around at that time. And she was, I guess she was 2 or 3, honey, because she was younger. And I said, Joe, I was gonna take my life, but the Lord spoke to me and told me not to. And he's like, yeah, all right, whatever, you know.
What?
I want to take a second and cut in just a second and talk to, if anyone is listening and they are struggling with these same thoughts. Like, if you are struggling with feeling unsafe or feeling as though you are battling those suicidal thoughts, we want you to know that you are seen and loved, and we don't want you to
Amen.
feel alone. And if you have no one to talk to, even if you leave us a comment and we don't get to it right away, you can call or text 988 and get someone to
Amen.
talk to
Yeah.
immediately, because your life is worth it, and your life does have value, and your life has purpose, and he does have a hope, and he does have a future. And I know that's not an easy story to share. I'm so thankful that you are even trusting enough to share this, so that maybe
Hmm.
potentially someone else takes their hard story and sees that there is potentially hope. And so when you're walking through that, how what would you say to that person that might be in the exact same scenario as you are feeling in that story? What would you want to say to them about maybe feeling ashamed about those thoughts or those ideals or those fears that are overcoming? What would you say to that person, like right now, that might be listening, Alice?
Very good question to that. You can't trust your emotions.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Uh, it's when our emotions take over and we're not thinking clearly, which I wasn't. You need to just stop. You need to stop and take a minute. And, if my girlfriend hadn't have called me, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know what
Yeah.
would have happened. But I do know that the God of the universe has a plan for each and every one of us.
I am literally mesmerized. And I've known Joe now. We've never in depthly talked about this. So I'm catching it, and I feel like I literally could talk to you for 2 days because I'm
Oh, we have
part
a lot
of
to
the
say.
part of the but part of it is just um the amount of times that Holy Spirit was speaking to you
Mhm,
and guiding and
mhm,
leading, even
Hmm.
when you weren't walking with him.
Mhm.
Like, this is not from the time of, like, have this child
right.
to a friend calling going, hey, listen, you are seen by God right now, and I know what you're
Mhm,
doing, to directing to a Bible. And I mean, I'm so thankful for a heavenly father who truly beckons his children.
Mm.
And how, man, how amazing was it that you two like followed that, right? And listened and
mhm,
adhered to that, because you see now what God has done and what's become of it. And it's unbelievable
Yeah.
that,
mhm,
and I just encouraged, like, as Danette was saying, man, just if more couples would understand and really, like, you're not even attuned to it, you're not even trying to hear it, but God's doing it, and I think He's doing that far more in relationships than we could ever think or imagine, because He desires the heart of His children, and it's mesmerizing to me that this is so much part of your story, even before really becoming like, man, we're sold out, passionately following Jesus and doing this thing,
Right.
just says a lot about God and who He is.
mhm.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
does. And, the thing is, deep down at the core level, Joe and I are best of friends. We're
Oh,
Oh,
we are best of friends. I mean, even when it's hard, hard, hard to walk. I mean, things like holding hands, dancing to romantic songs in the kitchen, um,
oh,
going
Don't
Joe.
be shy.
She's
going
like, I
for
see him
walks
stepping out
around the
that
block.
300 again.
It's just there's so many things that we wove into the
Mm,
marriage
Mhm.
uh to keep us physically connected, emotionally connected. I'm not trying to embarrass you, sweetie pie. I just um little notes that we leave each other, or the way we speak to each other, and let me tell you, it's been knocked down, drag out too. We've been on both ends of the spectrum,
Yeah.
but you can't leave the little things behind. The little
mm,
things are what weave things together, so that you don't lose that. I guess passion is the word I
Right.
would say.
Yeah.
Joe,
Absolutely.
I gotta know from your side, and I'm gonna go all the way back to earlier when that was like, said it came from this Leave It to Beaver, and I'm listening to the beginning of these stories at the beginning of this relationship, and you can tell at one point, even maybe when your daughter kind of stepped in, or whatever that looked like. um how was it for you, brother? Like, not having not having knowledge of any of this, not really asking for any of this, not like, hey, I'm gonna get married and man, I hope all this comes with it. Like, that's not the story, right? Like, you don't desire that. What was it like? Where was your heart and loving through this? I hear after I had a child, I wasn't going anywhere, but okay, but the first 5 years you didn't, and you're
Mhm.
navigating through this and stuff. So how did you find the capacity or the desire or the unction to love and fight for something that was so hurtful?
Oh boy, it might be stupid, but it's the feeling of not giving up on something.
Wow.
So the first 5 years not giving up. I was almost at the point of giving up, but 5 years, like, it's gonna get better. It's gonna turn a corner. It's gotta get better. We're doing all this stuff. It's gotta get better. And then with Nikki, it was so much better right there. It made it all worth it for all the more hell that was yet to come.
Hmm.
So there was that to cling on to.
Mhm.
But there's always I'm a big hoper. I always have a lot of hope. There's
He's
always
very loyal.
Hmm.
loyal, steadfast. There's a lot of hope that it can always be better tomorrow.
Yeah. When you
Yeah.
think about parenting, obviously, Alice, I think anyone with a healthy mind would say what you lived through as a child, no child should have to, right? And you have this daughter, Nicole, who's this beautiful being, and she was living through a different home situation, not near the
Mhm.
capacity of what you lived through.
Right.
And yet you would have I know you well enough to know that you would have wished better for her
Oh,
in
yeah.
those early years, right? So, if you were to talk to a parent who says, "Man, it's just hard. We're not getting along. Maybe it's better for us just to call it quits.
Mhm.
Maybe our pain is too much for our child." How would you
Mm.
encourage that couple that is walking through knowing, okay, we are for each other still. God is still for us. He's not against us. We're doing our best to get healed and whole, maybe from past traumas. How would you encourage that couple to stay steadfast or to give themselves grace in the parenting aspect when it comes to something that might be really difficult?
That's a tough question. It's a
Yeah.
tough question. Um, the whole family has to be on board with the healing journey. If one member of the family is not on board, the whole thing won't work.
Hmm.
It has to be a concerted effort by all the members of the family, and that included my mother, it included my brother, it included his family, like everyone had to be okay with, we are sticking through this no matter what.
Hmm.
If one gives up, it's like the table leg that takes the table out.
Hmm.
I knew I was the problem, but I also knew that mental illness was the problem. I am not mental illness.
Correct.
I have mental illness issues. I am not mental illness.
Amen.
Right.
And whether it had been alcohol addiction, which it very easily could have been given my mother's past, um, gambling, pornography, whatever it was, um, you just have to say that all of us are going to work together as a unit. And everyone needs to go through the counseling. Everyone needs to go.
Well, we didn't
That's
really have
so true.
everyone go.
I no, not in our immediate family.
Yeah.
In our immediate family. Yeah.
And we often say, I mean, I'm so, man, I hear that and I would just drive an absolute stake in that point. Um, because unfortunately we do sit with a lot of people that are wondering if tomorrow is best.
Mhm.
And one's fighting and fighting and fighting, and one's on the verge of giving up, and they don't have near stories maybe that you've walked through. And I love hearing you say, like, man, we gotta fight together. Like, we're in
Right.
this together. I think you two are the epitome of one, Alice, just, you know, knowing that I have mental illness. I struggle with this. I'm gonna fight this. And to
Mhm.
have a husband who just like drove a stake and said, I'm here and I'm loyal and I'm gonna hope. Like, and to never lose hope. And that's one of the biggest things that when we started, our marriage, tour in 2022, and we were going to go like, hey, we want to take marriages outside the walls of a church and we just want to empower and equip. it was because of as bad as our story was, we just always hoped that there would be a better tomorrow. Like we knew we were broken at our core, but could always be better. And it's where Broken for Better came from. I mean, it's like literally we were broken, but it was all with God's grace and his love and his glory. It all became better. And I just love hearing you say, man, I just never lost hope. Man, if somebody could hear that and that'd just be a mantra, because that is such a true and valid point.
And getting help is not lack of faith.
Correct.
Getting help
Mm.
is sometimes one of the biggest steps of faith you can actually take. I think sometimes getting help is so hard, and asking for help can feel as though you don't have faith. And unfortunately, that can be misconstrued or mistaught. And
That's a whole
sometimes
other
getting help.
episode.
I'm
Whole
sorry.
different episode.
Oh,
That's
whole
a whole
different
other
episode.
episode.
That's very
You
true.
know,
Very
there's
true.
one big thing that came into this also, Joe, if you want to speak on this, is boundaries.
If I want to speak on this?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, there's a great book out there called Boundaries. You've probably heard of it. And that's very important in any relationship, knowing boundaries. When people exceed them, how to deal with them, how to put them up gently, meaningfully, without being hostile about them.
Yeah.
And they may hurt at first, but they're for the best and they work. But read the book, Boundaries by Henry Cloud, I think. I'm not sure.
Cloud and Townsend.
Great.
Yeah,
great.
Dr. Cloud and Townsend. It's a
Yeah, like
great
she would
book.
do things. I would think, that's too much. Why? And I had to learn, like, what can I do? What can I do? What are the boundaries I can enforce? What is me being too much? What is her being too much? And what's proper to enforce as far as a boundary, with still being respectful, gentle, without being throwing chairs at each other. You know,
I
And
love
I
that.
had to put up really big boundaries with Nikki. Well, she put up huge boundaries with me. And when she got married, it was a whole new situation, bringing Ross into the equation.
Alice felt abandoned.
Yeah. And so basically, she set some very severe boundaries, and I just felt like my heart had been cut out of my chest. You know, it's like, who is this man that is now going to take over my place, you know, with my daughter? And Ross, if you know him, is just such an amazing guy, but he worked with our family. Literally, he got in the trenches with our family. And he said to me the other day, we were playing Uno card game, and he said, "Mom, I got to tell you, I haven't seen you act out or have any symptoms for such a long time. I can't even barely to remember what it was like when things were so
Wow.
bad." And I'm just so proud of all of us and how far we've come as a family. You know, Nikki just sent me a text message the other day. She'll randomly do it and she'll say, "Mom, thank you so much for hanging in there and fighting for our family and fighting for our child and fighting for Desiree."
Yeah.
You know, because Desiree has grandparents today that she never would have had years ago. And this is the hugest thing. I mean, it won't seem huge to y'all, but it's huge. It's huge to me. At school, they did a safety triangle, and who is in your safety triangle? And she put Mimi in the center. She put me in
Mommy,
this.
Daddy, Mimi.
She put me there.
And I thought I was going to be.
I know. But I was like,
That's a
that
miracle.
is so huge.
That's a
That
living
is-
miracle. That's a
It is.
living
It's
miracle.
huge.
And hopefully someone who's watching this today who feels like potentially they have a similar story to you guys, even if in a small capacity, even if they just feel like there is no hope, by listening to what God has done. But he hasn't done it without amazing, immense work on your part. Right? God can step in, but we still have the choice on how we continue to take steps, either towards him or away from him. We still have that choice. He gives us free will. And so he extended this hand to you guys, both at different times, in different ways, in different seasons, in different highs and different lows. And yet you both continued to do the work.
Mhm.
You continue to get the help, continue to take the steps, the hard work, and yet you've got this triangle of safety. What a beautiful picture
Yeah.
from a
Mhm.
beautiful little soul that literally is saying, I see the work you've done. Like, that's a miracle.
Yeah,
That's a
I
It
couldn't
miracle.
it
imagine that. I couldn't
it
imagine.
really just it touched my heart so much
Yeah.
when Nikki showed me that. She's like, "Mom, I never would have put you in my circle of safety."
There's a couple things, and Alice and John, just seriously, I cannot thank you enough for just trusting us with our story. We told you time will absolutely fly by.
Yeah.
We didn't
Mhm.
get to a quarter of what we could have,
Mhm.
so we may have to run this thing back. But I will tell you this: I couldn't imagine what the words from Ross must have meant.
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine the text from your daughter saying what she
Mhm.
says, being at the center. And I'll just tell you, like, I'll honor you both to
Mhm.
go, Joe, to be a man that hoped for another day and stood by and fought when you could have run. Bro, kudos to you and well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 39 years later, here you're getting
Mhm.
texts and words that, oh man, it's
Mhm.
got to make your heart explode. I mean, just
Mhm.
so good to you both. And I just seriously, we can't thank you enough for spending the time with us. To just getting to the top of mental health,
Mhm.
because we truly see day in and day out many more are dealing with this than they want to
Yeah.
even admit to, and we hope this just sheds a little light on the fact that you can go through a hard season, but
Mhm.
your hard season is not proof that it's over.
That's right.
Amen.
That's absolutely right. We're just so honored that you guys were with us today. If you were watching this episode, we just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for just being a listener. Thank you for trusting us to bring in other couples who have walked through the fire. Because sometimes the biggest outcome is after we've walked through the fire. The biggest stories. And we look through it like at a diamond, right? And it goes through this pressure point. It's first just
Mhm.
this rock, but it goes under intense pressure and heat and comes out so beautiful. And so often we want to quit when life gets hard. And so if you're that couple, we just want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for standing in the gap with your spouse, and please know there is hope.